No.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We appreciate you joining us for today's webinar, Real-Time Operational Intelligence. I see that we have a number of attendees signing on to the webinar, so we will just wait a moment or two here, and I will be back online to introduce our speakers and launch the program. So welcome. We'll be with you momentarily. Good afternoon again, and welcome everyone. We're going to get started with the webinar now. My name is Susan Lapatina, and I'm the Vice President of Industry Relations for the American Apparel and Footwear Association. I'm delighted to be your moderator today and welcome our presenter and our sponsor and one of AAFA's newest members, OpsVeda. So a warm welcome to President and CEO Sanjeev Gupta, who will be leading us off. Let me run through several introductions and a couple technical comments for everyone as we still are welcoming participants to the webinar. So again, we are going to be discussing real-time operational intelligence for apparel, footwear, and retail. I'm delighted to share with you a little bit of information about AAFA. So let's take a look here at this first slide. As many of you know, we are based in Washington, D.C. AAFA is the trusted public policy and political voice of the apparel and footwear industry, its management and shareholders, along with 4 million U.S. workers and our contribution of over $360 billion in annual U.S. retail sales. AAFA stands at the forefront as a leader of positive change for the industry. With deep integrity and purpose, we deliver a unified voice on behalf of the industry on key legislative and regulatory issues, and we foster a collaborative forum to promote best practices and innovation. AAFA's comprehensive work promotes the success and growth of the industry, its suppliers, and its customers all over the world. Before I introduce today's speakers, I'd like to review just a quick few technical notes for you. Most of you should be listening through your computer speakers. If you are having any issues, please dial in on your telephone. The number is located in the audio section of your control panel on your screen. If there are continuing difficulties, we would ask that you go to GoToWebinar at 800-263-6317. Now today all of the participants will be on mute. If you do have a question, please do go ahead and type it in the question box on your control panel. After the presentation and the prepared remarks are concluded, we will address as many questions as we are able to get to. The panelists will follow up following the webinar with answers to your questions. And we will also be recording the webinar today, which will be available for review and access on AAFA's website at the end of the week. So why don't we get started? We've got some incredible industry mavericks that are joining us today on our real-time intelligence conversation, and I'm excited to welcome several of these speakers. So first, let me welcome Farrukh Awan, who is Senior Vice President with Global Brands Group. Joining us today also is Ken Wiley, Vice President of Cradle Point, and as you heard, Sanjeev Gupta, Founder and CEO of OpsVeda. Farrukh brings 25 years of industry experience, including more than 11 working with Li & Fung and Global Brands Group. Global Brands designs, develops, markets, and sells products across a diverse portfolio of both owned and licensed brands. Customers, of course, include retailers, specialty retailers, and e-commerce channels in the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Ken is an expert in supply chain, manufacturing, and apparel. He joins us today with over 25 years of experience working with Columbia Sportswear, Weyerhaeuser, and Accenture, re-engineering their supply chains from the factory to the retail store and establishing best processes and policies. And then, of course, we have Sanjeev, founder of OpsVeda, who has more than 20 years of experience within the apparel, footwear, electronics, and manufacturing and consumer product goods sector. Today's webinar will highlight industry challenges and demonstrate how real-time intelligence helps manage the supply chain process, maximize revenue, and very importantly, helps to mitigate risk across your business. So Sanjeev, welcome. I'm going to turn it over to you and have you start our program.
Thank you so much, Susan. Pleased to have this awesome participation in this webcast. And thanks, Farrukh and Ken, for taking your time as well. Today's session will highlight certain significant challenges that the apparel and footwear industry deals with, and how OpsVeda real-time intelligence addresses the same and creates an opportunity to maximize revenue and risks for your business. The global brands here have deployed OpsVeda, and they have been successful with the product for almost a year now. I will first start out with some observations about the industry itself, and then we will also take time to demonstrate the solution. And hopefully, as Susan mentioned, towards the end, we will take some questions. So let's review this recent survey of some of the industry participants, and I believe some of you in the audience may have participated in the results of this survey as well. As you can see, key challenges that this survey found was these challenges hover around supply chain, sourcing cost, supply chain risk, and the ability to match demand and supply. We believe that end-to-end visibility and real-time intelligence is needed to mitigate risk and enhance scale for businesses that run in this industry. These risks are overlaid by the fact that many of you have more than 10, 20, or even larger number of sourcing partners. When you are multi-sourced, you also need to manage multiple points of failures. So the opportunity that this creates is, in order to mitigate risk and enhance scale, I think there is need to have enhanced visibility and also to reduce cycle time. Now, why do I mention cycle time in this example? Here is another interesting finding that we came across. Successful market-leading companies seem to be releasing, on average, 1,200 products every month, which means the industry, in order to be successful, needs to be moving from 2 seasons or 4 seasons to as many as 12 or even more seasons. If the cycle time is shorter, number of seasons are larger, this also helps businesses capture feedback from consumers and react quickly. Since they are making for a shorter season, it reduces all kinds of risk and reduces pricing pressure. So, in a nutshell, what we believe is that real-time visibility and shorter cycle time reduces supply chain risk for your business. So what does OpsVeda bring to this whole equation? What OpsVeda provides is a real-time intelligence solution that is focused specifically on your industry. We enable our clients to recapture some of the typical 10 to 20% of revenue and margins that are missed every single day because of delays, out of stocks, oversold, chargeback, expediting goods, and missed shipments. This is almost like the kitchen sink of the kinds of problems that we have on a day-to-day execution basis. We achieve this by replacing reports that typically share yesterday's results with real-time operational intelligence that provides visibility to exceptions and opportunities that drive improved results for your business, improved results that show up tomorrow.
And for those of you, this is Ken Wiley, and for those of you who work in the trenches with our systems today, many of you are used to what happens, at least in an SAP environment, where you wait for batch quite often. And in fact, the example that I have is we would extract entire tables out of SAP and hand them to a reporting system, and that process would take hours. And then we'd wait several hours waiting for that reporting system to do its magic, and then it was often 12 hours before we were able to present, say, the results of a run to our constituencies. And OpsVeda presents a tool that's truly unique in the marketplace in that it's real time. And as a manager, looking at a screen that Sanjeev is showing us here, as individual transactions are edited and saved, you're seeing the results of that in real time.
Yeah. So as you can see here in this specific screen, we have almost $30 million. If I have this view in near real time, I know that from the perspective of this month, and I'm already into let's say 2/3 of the month, and I see that I have good coverage for approximately $30 million, which is already invoiced and which is already in pick. Maybe another $6 million that is directly pegged to be directly shipped to my end customers. And then there are a number of transactions which are stuck because either they are in transit or they are bulk waiting for specific pull orders from the customers, certain confirmed transactions that are still in the various production sites. So getting visibility into these transactions and being able to drill down and specifically initiate certain collaborative actions either with my customer or with my supplier provides us the opportunity to mitigate certain risks and maybe provides us the opportunity to take out, as we said, that 10 to 20% that might get missed unless we have the right visibility at the right time. OpsVeda gives you visibility to what is out of stock, what is oversold, what is under chargeback, what kinds of transactions might result in certain penalties from my retail partners. For example, if I had certain transactions which are oversold, maybe I need to present an opportunity to my sales reps to suggest alternatives, and so that they can move inventory that maybe that is available, rather than let it become a lower fill rate for my transactions or a lost order. So those kinds of things are outcomes that the solution enables for our clients. Another visual on the application. OpsVeda is enabled on a paradigm of what needs my attention. So as a business user, I come to work, I have real-time, rather than run reports in my system to figure out what may have gone wrong yesterday, the system is working 24/7, which means when I log into OpsVeda, it tells me exactly where my business is at this very moment.
And then for those of you who've experienced pulling numbers out of a system, dropping them to Excel, and then showing up at a meeting with your numbers that maybe don't jive with the numbers of others around the table, OpsVeda can present to you and to those at the table, instead of having the meeting where we're all trying to sync up our numbers, we can look at one set of numbers and see what's happening across our supply chain.
Yeah, good comments, Ken. So let's review this. Exceptions in my process in real time, an ability to look at an allocation workbench, which tells me in real time which transactions are in pick, which are allocated, which are on hand, unallocated, which might be in transit, which might be late, which are not covered. Being able to look at certain transactions, right, in the industry, you cannot ship beyond the ship window. So transactions that are past start date, that are pre-cancel date are interesting. Transactions that are past cancel date, I should be able to drill down and take certain actions, either calling the customer or the supplier or the supply chain. The question of container prioritization might be something interesting to mention here. As you know, that there were significant port gridlocks, although that condition is beginning to ease now. If you have significant gridlocks and you have containers that are stuck either in Long Beach or in Oakland or any other port across North America, and if you had 10 containers that are stuck at a port and you only had the ability to release 2 of those containers today, which 2 containers would you prioritize? Won't it be nice if I had a real-time view into what each of those containers contain from the perspective of my revenue, or from the perspective of the highest priority transaction, or from the perspective of the latest set of products that we are releasing for the season that we are about to start? If you had an ability to know exactly which container or which set of containers provide the maximum bang for the buck for this particular period, you would be able to drill down and figure out exactly which, how to prioritize them. Now, this is only possible if you had a real-time view into all of your demand, all of your upcoming demand, all of your supply, all of the in-transit inventory, all of the inventory that is existing in various locations. Now, if you have all of that information for you, you can make a much more informed decision around which transactions and which containers to prioritize. So let's take a look at this solution live. What I'm going to do now is to give you a quick demonstration of the OpsVeda 6.0 system, and hopefully the statements that we are making will begin to make sense. So what we are going to look at is a live OpsVeda environment, typically deployed on cloud. So this is the solution itself is powered by SAP HANA. The solution itself is not meant only for customers that run SAP in the backend. This could be any apparel, footwear, retail customer which has a supply chain to manage, and all of you have a complex supply chain and a complex set of partners and a complex set of customers that you're trying to fulfill in an optimized manner. So user comes in, they log in. If I am an allocator, then today I'm going to walk you through various functions. I will talk about, from an order to cash perspective, what does the allocator do, what might be interesting from a sales management perspective, what might be interesting from the perspective of tracking samples, which is even before the products begin to get into your supply chain for the next season. What might be interesting from the view of tracking production across your various suppliers. What might be interesting from the perspective of logistics, to be able to plan the current workload at a specific distribution center, or to be able to have a forward-looking view of what is going to hit that particular distribution center. and also what might be interesting from the perspective of integrating point of sale data to provide visibility into how your retail is executing. So we'll walk through since the amount of time is short, we will only go through certain specific pieces of this. If there is a follow-on, we can definitely set up separate sessions. Eventually, at the end of the webinar, you will find some contact information so that you can reach out to us if you had any follow-on questions. So I'm an allocator. I come to work today. What I do is I have access to certain reports that are run overnight. I have access to these reports in my current transactional systems, whether it is SAP or Oracle or JDA. And I also have access to various reports in my BI systems. Typically, these reports have been extracted as of last night. And by the time I come to work, a team of people have run their reports and made certain reports available to me for me to consume. With the paradigm of OpsVeda, I come to work and I click on a link and I see exactly in my patch for my customers, my products, and my geo regions that I support, what kind of process exceptions I'm seeing in my business. Whether those transactions where there is a start date mismatch, or there is a delivery block, or there is a credit issue, or there are some kinds of holds, transactions that are incomplete, transactions which are of specific type, incorrect transactions, and so on and so forth. If I need it, I can drill down into those transactions and possibly initiate certain mitigating actions. I also take a look at, first thing I do when I come to work is to look at all shippable transactions that may be 100% filled or with positive ATS, which means that these are all transactions which have met all of my fill rate requirements from my customer. They are also positive ATS means that all of the total supply exceeds total demand, and therefore I should have no problem releasing this to my distribution center to be shipped out. Negative ATS might mean that these are transactions where while this particular order has all of the fill rates that are required, there might be additional requirement, additional demand for a higher priority customer that might have been denied certain stock and so on. So if I wanted, I can drill down into those transactions and I could initiate certain activities. I can also take a look at a preview of, from an allocation perspective, where exactly my whole patch is, right, in the context of my customers and my products. So if I see that there is over $412 million of on-hand unallocated inventory, that clearly is something that is not news to me. This might be inventory that needs some additional activity. If I see certain demand which is relying on in-transit inventory, certain demand which is late, I can drill down into those transactions which are late, and it brings me to a view of all transactions that fit that particular segment. So now I'm looking at a grid view of all transactions that are potentially late, and I can look at which customers are impacted by this and which products are impacted by this. When I look at this grid view, it shows me there are, well, a fairly large number of lines which are impacted, various documents, the channel, the product, the grid size, specific labels, specific locations, sold to party, PO numbers, order types, and so on and so forth. If I wanted to make this into a workbench for myself, I just maximize this, I lose my chart, I can look at these transactions. If I want to see are there any exceptions against some of these transactions, it will show me exactly how long this particular order has been open and what kind of exceptions are there in a specific order. If there are any resolved exceptions, it also shows me what kind of exceptions have been resolved against a specific transaction. I can download this rather than having to run a report. I can download this complete list of 21,000 lines onto a spreadsheet if I needed to, and it becomes available to me for me to send it to a colleague in order to collaborate with them. I can also take very specific lines if I had a need to to take specific lines and send a message to my customer, I can do some of those things. I can sort this information based upon specific material numbers or specific products and so on and so forth. If I wanted to go down, and this is a typical view, and there are various different views, and I'm not going to go into details of each of these views, but from the perspective of managing my work, first I take a look at shippable transactions which are filled, not filled. I look at bulk transactions. I look at fast cancel transactions. I look at alternative SKUs, transactions where there might be an opportunity to offer an alternative SKU to a customer, which means maybe there is an oversold situation for a specific transaction. And here as well, I can try to download the list of transactions which I have in front of me, which means I can open it, and so without having to run a report, it becomes available to me right away. If I wanted to, as I said before, if I wanted to send a message into a colleague of mine saying, hey, can you take care of these two transactions? These have alternative SKUs, these need attention. I can do some of those things. I'm not going to initiate certain activity here. If I wanted to annotate a decision against a specific transaction, I can launch a collaborative message and say, this alternative part may be suggested. So if I do that and I can send it to a colleague of mine or my customer, this can be annotated within the system. So there is an ability to collaborate in the context of a transaction where we have an alternative activity that is possible. Before I forget, as you see at the very top, there is a streaming view of certain business events that are streaming. So essentially what OpsVeda is, it captures the various transactions that are happening across my supply chain, certain kinds of events I am subscribed to, and those events that I am subscribed to, I get a notification about those events, and if I wanted to, I can search a specific transaction within the application, and it takes me to all the transactions that might be impacted as a result of that particular business event. And if I wanted, I can drill down into that specific order and see what may or may not have happened against that transaction from the time that transaction got created. So if there are certain exceptions which are open against this transaction, I'm able to take a look at those as well. Let me switch this view into a slightly different scenario. So let's take a look at from the perspective of a manager, what do I see? From the perspective of a manager, if I wanted to see all transactions that are at risk of not being filled within this period, if I wanted to see all the confirmed transactions where we do have a customer order, but I do not have a corresponding inventory yet, I can drill down into specifically those transactions and see exactly which ones those are. At this point in time, since these are risk, for those of you who run SAP, and I think that might be a minority of the folks in the audience, but for those of you who run it on top of SAP, the statuses that you see here are very specific to what you have inside your SAP environment. So if you run the A run and it shows that certain transactions are not covered or certain transactions that have certain issues, those will automatically show up within this application. There are another key things to point out here. If I wanted to see, there are so many different reports which show me which are my top 10 customers and top 10 distribution centers and so on and so forth, being able to look through transactions which have certain kinds of issues, which have oversold transactions or incomplete transactions and so on and so forth. But what we have tried to do within OpsVeda is, rather than highlight what is good in my business, if I really wanted to drill down into what is risky in my business, I can just go into specific transaction, then I take a look at, these are all risky transactions. So as far as JCPenney is concerned, these are the transactions which are targeted for this period, and I might have 485,000 worth of my revenue, which might be impacted because there is some kind of a risk in this execution. So I can drill down into exactly the risky transactions, peg that JCPenney, and maybe take certain action against those. Okay. Again, this is the visualization at the very first is the visualization that is available to all of my business users. They are, by the way, also available with that same level of granularity on mobile devices. So everything that we are showing you today is available on the web, and they are also available on your mobile devices in real time with the same level of latency, which is less than 60 seconds within your desktop, and the same level of latency replicated on your mobile devices with less than 60 seconds from the time the activity is recorded in your back-end supply chain systems and the time that the activity shows up within your OpsVeda environment. Okay. Certain other things. So it's not just about handling the supply chain from the perspective of auto management. OpsVeda is also extending the solution in order to be able to track. We spoke about the need to shorten the supply chain. Some of the best players in the industry are able to release as many as, on average, 1,200 products a month. That requires a very short supply chain. That also requires that while the best players might have 21 days or 1 month cycle time, there are some other really very successful brand names which are still dealing with 9-month cycle times and 6-month cycle times. So we felt that it is important to be able to provide tools to integrate those processes which are probably not running on your SAP or Oracle environment, but sometimes they are either manual or they are being tackled on your EC Vision system or certain other system where you manage your new product launch. So here we are able to integrate data that relates to samples processing, and the same data, with the help of certain integrations, we are able to offer a dashboard for the samples business or the planners to be able to see exactly where some of these transactions are in the overall cycle of getting approved before it hits the production floor at the various manufacturers. If I wanted to look at production tracking, all of you do, if the volumes are high, quite likely all of your purchase orders are being tracked in your back-end ERP systems. Typically, in purchase orders, you capture statuses around creation of purchase orders or production orders, statuses around approval of those purchase orders, statuses around advance shipping notification when the manufacturer ships the goods, and then statuses around actual goods receipt. But in between, if the cycle time is 4 months, in between there are so many different stages that the production goes through, whether or not the fabric trims have been received, whether or not size sets have been approved, whether or not cutting has been done, sort has been done, washout has been done. Many a times these processes are being handled either in your GT Nexus environment or any other tool or EC Vision or quite often manual spreadsheets. So OpsVeda also has specific templates for your industry to be able to integrate that data, and then we are able to drill down and then collect this information. Again, if you have to reduce cycle times, and if you have to add more seasons into your execution, you need ability to be able to figure out which manufacturers are supporting you, which manufacturers result in more delays, and how is your season going. So we have templates which is able to integrate this information, whether manual or through other systems, and be able to provide the kinds of visualization that I'm showing you. And this captures across various suppliers what kind of stages and what kind of delays at the level of suppliers or at the level of specific number of transactions that are impacted by each of these suppliers and by the duration of delays across each of these suppliers, and we can drill down into these transactions if I wanted to. And again, the visualization follows a workbench, and this workbench can be used for initiating certain activities with my with my supply chain. I can take this this spreadsheet information, which has all of the details around my product, and I can go reach out to my supplier and say, why is this late? Or at the end of the season, I can evaluate why certain things went wrong and so on and so forth. So that's about production tracking. We also integrate the logistics data. Many of you may have distribution centers that are running within your environment, whether or not you run SAP EWM or you run PKMS or you run Manhattan or Red Query. We have ability to integrate the data from those various distribution centers, whether or not it is integrated with your ERP systems. And we are able to take data to be able to say which transactions are past must arrive by date, which transactions are approaching cancel date, and so on. So that if the allocator has released the order into the warehouse, but the warehouse has not shipped, we should be able to drill down into those transactions and see exactly what will ship today, what will ship tomorrow, and so on. The same solution is also then able to provide intelligence to the various distribution centers and see what is the expected load at the various DCs over the coming months and so on. And this often helps them plan the load and the contingent labor workforce for the coming periods. Again, from a distribution center perspective, container prioritization is important. And here what we have done is we are looking at all containers, and we can drill down into specific containers and be able to see which are high, medium, and low containers, and then see are there things that we need to address against them. And lastly, one last view, which is to integrate point of sale data. So it's great to know to manage my supply chain with respect to forecast and orders and the corresponding production that I'm tracking across my various production partners. It's also we also integrate point of sale data from the various retailers and wholesalers that are providing me this information, sell-through information, and we can integrate that, and we continue to create content around where do we see demand shifts, where do we see significant upsides or downsides in inventory, where did we see out of stock, where did we see on-shelf availability, and so on. So OpsVeda continues to integrate all of this data in order to make sure that you have good visibility across your supply chain, with respect to orders that you are filling every single day, with respect to various products that you are sourcing from various partners every single day, with respect to exceptions in those processes as they come up, with respect to being able to see how my distribution center is fulfilling these requirements. We also integrate the various routing guides that Nordstrom might provide, or many of my customers might provide, the rules that those routing guides capture, and the specific shipping requirements that those routing guides capture. Even those are integrated within the OpsVeda environment. And then we also integrate, as we said, we have integration into EC Vision and GT Nexus and a few other data sources to be able to bring in how some of this manufacturing and sample stacking into this proceeding. The ultimate solution, in summary, the ultimate solution to execute better in this industry is to shorten your cycle time. And to shorten your cycle time, you need an integrated visibility across your entire supply chain, and you need the ability to be able to collaborate with the help of that integrated real-time visibility with the various partners who are trying to make you successful, from your all the way from all of your sourcing partners, all the way into your end customers and your retailers. And the solution that we have showed you today is available, and everything that I show here can be implemented in 4 to 6 weeks time frame for all AFS, apparel, footwear, fashion, retail customers, with the help of the out-of-box extractors and integrators run integrations that we have in place. Maybe this is the time to summarize. So if I was to summarize, the opportunity for the customers in audience is to have a solution that integrates various kinds of business events across your supply chain in real time and integrate the whole process from the very beginning of samples management, getting into procurement, managing demand and supply matching, managing order fulfillment, managing logistics, and also be able to measure how my sales are doing at my retail partners.
Yeah, and this is Ken. I think one of the things we like to, ways to put it is that these workbenches can make reporting events irrelevant because what you're seeing is real time. So when someone saves a change to a purchase order or a sales order, the workbenches are updated within at least 60 seconds.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. So how we look at the solution is that this innovation is not pegged as a reporting tool which provides you a report against what happened yesterday. This is pegged as a real-time solution which helps you, which provides you a lens to focus your business with. OpsVeda enables a single-click access across your order management, allocation, sourcing, logistics processes, and it offers it through the lens of exceptions and the various prioritization that you want to offer. Shippable transaction, bulks with reference, without reference, duplicates, sometimes you have EDI, sometimes you have manual. You often have, this industry has high volume of transactions, high volume of shipments, large frequency of shipments into customer. Whenever you have those high volumes, you also have more potential of things going wrong. So pass, cancel, return, shipment status, undersold transactions, oversold transactions. If I'm oversold, I need to possibly consider alternatives for my customer. All of that information mapped into the classic apparel footwear processes have already been pre-enabled within our solution context. Things like allocation workbench, at many of our customers, the allocation runs, given the volume of data, can often take 8 hours to 12 hours. What OpsVeda enables is real time, which means as data streams in, the system is able to analyze the impact of those supply chain events and be able to measure exactly how my allocation is going to look like and exactly where the opportunities are and where we might have certain challenges. The solution also comes with significant amount of configurability that is done by business users, because as you can imagine, in the business, the exceptions are common. Exceptions are every day, and sometimes there are certain issues that happen that were not anticipated. If there is some issue at a specific factory, we might want to be able to configure certain process exceptions that are specific to that issue. So we have made sure that the application itself comes with significant amount of configurability that business users, without having to go reach out to IT, are able to configure these kinds of exceptions and certain visualizations to be able to enable their own respective teams to take action. When you run your business with exceptions, you also enable the ability to sense and respond. So system automatically senses the challenges. System presents it in a visualization that is actionable, and hopefully business users can respond. And as I said before, your process, your data in 4 to 6 weeks deployed. I wanted to take a moment to talk about there are a few attributes. When you have the impact of all of these data streams being presented to you near real time, you have a profound simplification. So today, there could be a number of systems from various kinds of data gets extracted. Eventually, it gets transformed. It gets presented into a BI system, and then users run their report based upon slightly older data. When the same data set becomes real time, then there is an opportunity to go change certain processes. There is an opportunity to respond rather quickly. And I want to highlight Global Brands is on this call. Global Brands, we participated in a global competition earlier this year, and we did win the SAP HANA Innovation Award. Farrukh, did you want to mention something on this topic?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev. Well, it's been a good journey with OpsVeda so far. It was a pleasant surprise to win the HANA Innovation Award earlier this year. We started our OpsVeda journey back in Q4 of last year. Initially, just like anyone else, we were skeptical about the idea of this tool providing real-time information, as we were used to, running SAP reports that take some time, as if you're running it on the live transactional system. And if you're running BW reports, then the data is as good as of last night's refresh. So the challenge that we always faced was the operational teams, our order management teams, needed to look at real-time information. So the OpsVeda tool allowed us to, do the exception-based reporting, order management metrics in our order-to-cash cycle, clear visibility into our order management issues, tracking progress against our monthly shipping plans. We're able to do workload management over our allocators. We're able to do container prioritization, milestone tracking, and risk assessment on our orders. All of this based on near real-time data that is fed from our live system into the OpsVeda tool. So overall, this has been a very good journey. We've seen lots of value coming out of the OpsVeda tool. Our order management teams are loving the tool so far, and we now have almost all of our businesses that are running on SAP are now leveraging OpsVeda.
Thank you, Farrukh. As I said before, simplicity and real-time intelligence is our theme. Eventually, this presentation would be made available through the AAFA portal as well. These links provide certain additional details on customer success stories and a few videos that highlight the opportunity. In closing, we believe that by enabling real-time supply chain execution, OpsVeda presents the opportunity for all of your businesses to recapture some of the typical 10 to 20% of revenue or margins opportunity that are missed every single day due to things like oversold, chargebacks, expedites, missed shipments, and so on. And we deliver this through this notion of replacing reports, no BI and no reports, and we replace existing BI and reports with real-time actionable insight that enables decisions to improve your results for tomorrow. We are also, not to forget, we are a Gartner Cool Vendor for supply chain execution. And with that, Susan,
great, Sanjeev.
I take you to the summary of this.
Wonderful, great. Thank you all of our presenters. We do have time for several questions, which we have received in the question box. So thank you to the participants, and continue to type in your inquiries. The first question that I'd like to direct to either Ken, Farrukh, or Sanjeev that we've received: how is data entered into the system? Could you talk to that, please?
If I may take this. Hey, Farrukh, go ahead, please.
The data gets into the OpsVeda system through agents that we have deployed in our core SAP platform, that upon certain key points, upon saving key transactions, it actually extracts the small amount of data that is being handled for that transaction and sends it through a live connection to the OpsVeda HANA system, which is then records and merges together with our data that's already sitting there from before. So there's nobody keying in data into OpsVeda. It's actually being fed live near real time from our system.
Yeah, if I may add to that, thanks Farrukh. If I may add to that, we have adapters and extractors that are deployed in the backend environment. We also take EDI data. We also take all kinds of other feeds and interfaces. This is really modeled as capturing business events. The moment transactions are created, nuggets of information get streamed. The moment transactions change, nuggets of information get streamed. And as data streams into OpsVeda, the incoming data is analyzed in real time, so that from a business user perspective, the latency and the currency of the visibility on the OpsVeda environment is typically no more than 60 seconds, which means analyze information in less than 60 seconds.
Great. We have several more questions that have come in that I'd like to share with the group. One of those is, can you speak to and address whether you also maintain a data repository for transactions on hand, on order, and in transit?
Yes. So the data is in OpsVeda. So everything that you see, the corresponding backend data, all drill downs that I showed were all within OpsVeda. It is just structured and stored in a slightly different manner. And that's part of the intellectual property that we bring. We have a process agnostic data store, which connects all of these data from various data sources on a near real-time basis, which means if we wanted to drill down into on-hand and in-transit and all of that, those is what we showed in the demonstration, and those can be drilled down upon right here within the cockpit. So the short answer is yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. A question for Farrukh. Could you talk a little bit about the processes that global brands use with this deployment, perhaps in the areas of supply, inventory, allocation, if you could speak to that for a moment.
Yes, we use it on our for our container prioritization for the inbound containers that are coming into our warehouses. We use it for our allocation for orders outbound to our customers, and then within our warehouses in terms of as the orders and pick tickets are moving from one stage to the next before the shipment actually goes out. So pretty much we're monitoring and leveraging this tool for our complete supply chain from our inbound, from our factories coming into our warehouses and then going out to our customers.
Thank you, Farrukh. Another question from our audience coming into the group. Could you explain, does OpsVeda integrate with Oracle, SM, OMS systems?
Yes, OpsVeda does have extractors to data from non-SAP environments, including Oracle order management systems. Just that for an SAP customer, we do magic, and that magic is absolutely real-time streaming. But we do take data from other data sources, including Oracle and JDA.
Excellent. Well, we have come to the close of today's program. I want to thank all of our speakers for providing us with their insights and valuable information on the topic of real-time operational intelligence. Again, we will take this recording and it will be available to all of the participants. So many thanks to everyone and have a